One of the best things about video games is that you get to immerse yourself in a story that's larger than life, that's made up of a fantastical narrative, that lets you do things that you can never really do in reality. It's escapism at its finest, and it's easy to see why we love it. But today we're venturing off into hypothetical land and exploring what it would be like if some of our favorite games were actually reality. And what would that reality be like? Well, in some cases, pretty damn terrifying. Now, we've tried to keep horror games off this list because, quite frankly, any horror game in real life would be traumatizing. And for some of the games on this list, we'll be talking about the franchise or a series as a whole as opposed to individual games. Mainly because the reasons why they're on this list is because of the universe they're in. So with all that in mind, let's jump in. And at number 10 is Pokemon. I think it's fair to say that everyone at some point has wished that Pokemon was real. How amazing would that be? A whole team of awesome creatures at your side going on adventures, fighting off foes. Sounds great in theory. But if Pokemon were real, living, breathing creatures, first off, they'd probably be capable of some major damage. Don't know if you'd really want a Charizard burning up some skyscrapers or a Gyarados destroying every ship that crosses its path. And what happens when they battle each other? Well, fainting may just be a euphemism for death in the real world. You can't revive any living thing once it's crossed that line. Up next, number 9 is Homefront. Homefront is a game that takes place in dystopian US in the year 2027, and they're at war with North Korea. Or rather, the Greater Korean Republic. Kim Jong-un takes power after his father dies and reunites Korea, ultimately putting it on the road to becoming a superpower and depowering the United States. After detonating an EMP blast, the GKR ends up crippling the US's electrical infrastructure, and uses the chaos it causes to invade. It's a reality that, compared to some of the other numbers on this list, is a little bit more on the plausible side, which makes it pretty damn scary. Up next, number 8 is Papers, Please. In a similar vein to our last number, but hitting way closer to home, Papers, Please is a game that deals with a highly oppressive society, except it makes things terrifyingly personal. You play an immigration officer at the border of a fictional country who has major political hostilities with other countries. You must review each immigrant and choose whether or not to let them in, up against an ever-increasing list of rules as to who can actually be accepted. And the hard part? Well, your salary is based on how many people you process correctly, and your salary goes to providing shelter, food, and heat for your family, and you're constantly presented with moral decisions, some of which are heart-wrenching. Up next, number 7 is Watchdogs. Technology is wonderful but also a tad petrifying if you think of the capabilities and ramifications it can have. In Watchdogs, you play a hacker who manipulates Chicago by only using his smartphone, giving him the ability to manipulate surveillance cameras, drawbridges, you name it. The rest of the series follows suit, hacking into cars, adjusting the outcomes of elections, even 3D printing. Luckily, in real life, you can't hack anything you see in front of you, but it's pretty scary to think that even on some level, hacking is capable of drastically impacting many things in our lives. Up next, number 6 is Mortal Kombat. Fatalities. Great in a video game, but definitely something you wouldn't want to witness in real life. Up next, number 5 is The Last of Us. A virus that turns humans into this? Yep, hard pass on that. And let's not forget the kinds of things that non-infected humans were up to. And our number 4 spot is Half-Life. After a teleportation experiment goes horrifically wrong, you play as Dr. Gordon Freeman, fighting your way out of the research facility that you work at, taking on enemies and solving puzzles. And while it gets more complicated than that, if you're privy to any of the fan theories, it's some really interesting stuff, it's easy to say that the hostile aliens you encounter are the stuff of nightmares. And I don't know about you, but I wouldn't want to live in a world where a dimensional rift was letting in terrors like that. Coming up next in our number 3 spot is the Grand Theft Auto series. While GTA is one of the most praised franchises in the video game industry, if the events of the games were a reality, well, we'd have a real issue. Essentially, we're talking mass civilian casualties and shootings almost daily. The daily average in the US for people shot is 315 people, with an average of 93 people dying from those wounds. So imagine that everyone who played Grand Theft Auto 5 walked around every day shooting civilians, regardless of whether they're stuck in the crossfire during a mission or just doing it for shits and giggles. For context, Grand Theft Auto 5 has sold over 75 million copies as of February 2017. Now, obviously, no one in their right mind would go around shooting up civilians, but I'm fairly certain that no one would ever want to run into the real-life Trevor Phillips, now would they? Up next, number 2 is the Bioshock series. While Bioshock may not instigate the same level of mass murders as our last number, the dystopian societies of Rapture and Columbia are pretty messed up. Not really places you want to live, despite being aesthetically really appealing. I mean, City in the Clouds does sound like paradise, except for the rampant racism and oppression and religious cult-esque vibes. And do we really need to get into everything that Elizabeth had to endure on Bioshock Infinite? Yeah. And finally, in our number 1 spot is the Fallout franchise. Fallout kinda takes the cake these days for the more terrifying game-to-reality hypotheses. With all the talk of nuclear war that's pouring out into the news these days, it's hard to not imagine a reality similar to the landscape we see in the Fallout series. If you're unfamiliar with it, which would be surprising considering it's one of the most popular franchises to date, the game takes place in an alternate future, in a post-apocalyptic nuclear wasteland in which atomic physics have become the cornerstone of scientific progress. Due to many different factors and conflicts throughout the world, in the year 2077, the Great war happens, where a 2-hour nuclear exchange ravages the Earth. Truth is though, if a nuclear attack of that scale were to happen, it's likely the majority of us wouldn't survive. But perhaps those who somehow manage to defy death would end up in a world still recuperating like the one that we see in the franchise. And, well, that's pretty terrifying. Alright, there we have it, friends. What other games do you think would be terrifying if they happened in real life? Let us know in those comments below. And as always, hit those like and subscribe buttons if you dug this video. In the meantime, thanks for watching, guys. I'll catch you all in the next one.